What's up, man?
Hey, brother.
I had to download it and put it on my phone.
We should have practiced this yesterday.
I didn't. I know.
Let's do it. You want to give it a go or you want to hold tight?
No, I'm good, man. This is what entrepreneurs have to go through. Stuff doesn't work right. Poo poo happens.
All
All
right,
right.
roll it.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, my brother. Let me make sure we are on the public. We're not live.
No,
Let me
it's
unlock
just
it. I got us
recording.
private. We're okay. Here we go. I'm
Oh,
getting ready to bring it live, brother.
all right.
Not yet. Hold up. Miss your meeting. You got to turn your volume down, son, Ronnie.
My volume's all the way down. Oh wait, is the microphone in my computer not off? How about that?
I always wonder why people had on headsets when they're on, so you can hear without. Let's see if we're up. Yep, we're live, my brother.
We are live.
Yep. So anybody got questions can chime in, and we'll see who comes in. You can, yeah, this we will probably have to send the link over to YouTube, but we'll give it a shot.
That's fine. So this is our new venture. Chris and Ronnie Haskins. We are trying to give back to communities and people all over the world the entrepreneur things that we've learned over the last 30 years. My brother Chris has been working in the music industry, and then he started in the real estate industry in 2004, about a little over 15 years ago. And he has been carving out that entrepreneurial spirit for a very long time, and he's a professional at it. He's mastered that trade. Tell him about yourself, Chris.
Greetings. Yes, this my name is Chris Haskins. I'm a full-time entrepreneur. Been buying and flipping houses since 2004, coaching and training others to do the same since 2010. And I actually am honored to be in a chat room with my brother. Class, as we begin class for the day, class is in session. Ronnie is a full-time entrepreneur too. You've been in business since when, Ronnie? 2000 what?
1990. I actually
19.
purchased the business in '07, but I
Okay,
was building it from '98 on.
good God. Okay, so you've been longer than me. What we want to do is give back to our community and help entrepreneurs succeed or get started. So Ronnie, I wanted to ask you, brother, what made you decide to be an entrepreneur? What took you down on the entrepreneurial field?
Well, that's a great question. And I think I've had this conversation with you before. And, when I started this 20 years ago, I didn't even realize I was an entrepreneur. Do you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, I didn't even realize that I was being an entrepreneur. Basically, working on this business has been my lifelong dream since around 1995. And so when I finally started achieving those goals and reaching those goals, it didn't even occur to me that I was an entrepreneur. I think Shark Tank has brought it to the forefront of people's minds. The profit movie, TV shows like that.
Hmm.
People want to be entrepreneurs and they want to learn things and they want to do things for themselves, but they don't know where to start. So I think the better question for me was what kept me going? Why did I continue to work on the dream? And that was basically I had a big fear of going back into the old that anymore. It was
Hmm.
an industry that I didn't like anymore, and I wanted to be something more. I really had this drive to be something more. And so that's what kept me getting up every day. Does that make sense, Chris?
Yeah. When you say something more, what do you mean by something more? I mean, obviously, the more can be so many things.
Yeah, that's a great statement. So more, what I mean when I say more is um, I wanted to offer more and I wanted to have something of more value. I didn't like the transactional relationships with people.
Did
I
you want to
enjoy
maybe matter more?
relationships with people. You know, you can do
Hmm.
transactions with people and never become friends and never have anything more to do with them. Or
Hmm.
you can have what we they call now is relationship selling. And that is much more fun to me and much more fulfilling because I actually help people and become their friends. And I
Gotcha.
couldn't do that working at a dealership. I had to win and you had to lose. It took 4 hours of your time and I had to win that transaction and you had to lose. And I just didn't like it. I really
Mm.
didn't.
It sounds like what you're saying is you wanted to matter.
I did want to matter. Maybe I didn't know that. But yeah, I wanted to matter. I wanted the work that I was doing on this planet to mean something.
Yeah. Nice.
So Chris, what's been driving like we've been brothers for
Ever.
uh how old are you?
42, brother.
43 years. And we live on opposite sides of the country. So, even though when we get together for Christmas or whatever, it's just like we never left each other's sides. But
Yeah.
I don't think our relationship is as close as like your two daughters or my kids. You know what I
No
mean?
way.
Like my kids are only 3 years apart. So they do everything together.
Hmm.
I'm excited about doing this with you because I get to learn the real answers to these questions. And what I want you guys to know out there in YouTube land and Facebook is that I'm learning these questions from my brother as well is super exciting for me. And we plan on doing this for the next 20 or 30 years as we move through life so that we can actually have a better relationship. And what we're hoping happens is that you get to learn something from our mistakes, our lessons that we've learned that we've paid for in money and time and effort, and that it'll help enrich your life, make your life better.
Hmm.
So here's my first question for my brother. What made you become an entrepreneur when you were going through college and you were learning to be a musical engineer? That's more of a boxed in thing, like I'm going to do this thing for the rest of my life. When did that switch turn on for you when you decided, hey, I can be an entrepreneur, whether it be a music business or real estate or whatever? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and I think a lot like you. I didn't know I was becoming an entrepreneur. I was just doing shit, to be honest with you. But when I got to back up, college was just one thing for me. College was a freaking vacation for me. Because after I graduated high school, I went to work at the foundry, which we're not getting into that one today. But I went to work at a horrible job, and I figured there was more to life than going to work at a disgusting factory. So when I went to college, then I figured I would maybe learn a trade and go out there and get a better job. But I just was unemployable, Ronnie. I've been fired about 7 times from different jobs, and I just could not keep a job. And every time I went in, I'd go in begrudgingly, and I'd do what I was supposed to do, but I just could not keep. I couldn't even after I graduated from college. I got fired. I just couldn't keep a job. So I was like, you know what? Let me just try to make this thing work on my own. So it was kind of like I had to make it work because I just couldn't keep working. No one would keep me working for 'em.
Wow.
So it's kind of
So,
like, yeah. So I went in, I'm like, you know what? This is not going to work. 7 times I was fired. I remember, and I think that's a big thing for entrepreneurs too. We all need a good failure. We all need a good failure. Walt Disney said, you got to fail so you can learn how to be stronger. So I was at a young age, I think for me, I was fired so many times, Ronnie. It was like, it wasn't a big deal. Let you go, move on to the next thing. Getting fired, not a big deal. But you remember when dad was fired, our father, remember that?
yeah, that was like 25 years in his job.
How many years?
25.
Yeah, he worked for the company for so long. It was devastating for dad.
Yeah.
But as I get older, having getting fired at a young age was nothing. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and try to see if I can work for myself. And it worked out. It's worked out for me. It is working, but the shit is not for everybody, and it's extremely harder than working for somebody else because you could go into business for someone. If you work for yourself, you might be working for a dummy, you know?
Yeah. Hey, you ever heard Jim Carrey do that? Jim Carrey, the comedian. You ever seen that college address that he does when he's giving a commencement speech?
Mm-mm.
He gave this commencement speech and he said his dad worked for a company for 25 years and got fired. And then he said this. He said, "You know, you can be fired from doing something you don't even like to do."
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could work somewhere 25 years and get fired
You don't even want to
and
be
hate
there.
that job for 25 years.
Yeah. So that was
So
what it is for me. So what keeps you going, Ronnie? Give us some nuggets that keeps you going. My friend said you not only need to have get up and go, but you got to have some keep going.
I think that self motivation is a learned skill. I like to let
Yeah.
people in YouTube know that. Like, I'm not a unicorn. I'm not something that's just a special design of a person. Let's start with the facts, right? I dropped out of college. College was not a vacation for me, like with Chris. College was for me. Um, it was a disaster. Like I just basically didn't make it through 1 year, and
Hmm.
so I have never had a backup plan. You know, I went into the army. I got out of the army, and so I've never had anything that I could fall back on.
Hmm.
I don't know if you really understand what I'm saying. Like some people go to college and get a degree,
Yeah.
and then they'll go mingle in the world and try to become an entrepreneur or start a business. But in then they can fall back to, oh, well, I can still get a corporate job if this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And I never had that.
I think that's maybe pushed you to
So
because there is no
when I
plan
get
B
up
for
and
you.
go every day, I just don't know any better at this point in time. So I think, you're like speaking, when you ask me that question, where do I get my get up and go from? I think you're talking to me when I was 30 or 31, like 18 years ago, because that's when I don't, I mean, it was the fear of having to go back to work at a dealership, the fear of having to go take a job somewhere. Um, those were valuable lessons for me. Like there were times where I didn't make any money and I thought about taking an extra job in order to make money until I
Yeah.
realized that job was going to consume 20 hours a week, 20 hours a week that I could actually implement into my own business to make it better.
Yeah.
And so that get up and go attitude was, I hate to say it, but the fear drove it, man. I
Yeah.
don't want people to think that they should run from fear for the rest of their life, but you got to have something. You got to have something that keeps you going.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I'm just saying for me too, my thing. Well, let me ask you, do you feel like the same person back when you were 30? Do you feel like you're the same guy? You think about the dollar the same? You think about your time the same? Or is it like, I'm like, for me, I feel like I'm the same broke college guy, graduated from school with no money. I'm like, so I'm 5:30 every day trying to make sure I'm not going to go back to that. Do you feel like that at all? Or do you kind of like have a different, like, I'm running a business and I need to be this?
That's a good question. So I'll tell you, man. No, I don't think I feel like the same person because when I was 30 and 31, it was all about hitting numbers. Like you said, it was all about how do I get more money? How do I get more money? And something magical happened probably about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. Money just became less important to me. I'm not saying it's not important and doesn't make you comfortable, but at some point you got to ask yourself, when is it enough?
Yeah.
Like my time, and it wasn't that I didn't care about money, but my time just became more valuable than any amount of money I can make.
Yeah.
And so that being said,
Yeah.
the goals that I set out for myself, I'd already hit 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million is the next goal. But
Yeah.
like I had never, I don't feel like I felt when I was 31. No, I'm just a
But,
lot more at peace for where I'm at, and I don't feel like I struggle as much.
but you're still getting up early, you exercising, doing stuff.
Yeah, I get up at 4:15 and I'm running. I think. it's a challenge. It's a challenge for myself. I think you got to find ways to motivate yourself if you're going to be successful.
Mm.
You know.
Any questions you guys got, just put it in the chat and we will answer them. We'll answer them. Any questions you got down there, put them on the side, guys. Okay, Ronnie. We're at
So I wanted to ask you,
good.
when you're doing real estate transactions, when you're looking for the right referral or the right client for your business, I noticed that you don't use the words like I'm looking for anybody with a pulse, anybody that owns, whatever the case may be. How do you go after the exact client that you're looking for? Like do you think you have to be all things to
Oh man, I love that phrase. All things to all people. No, you can't do that. That's the number one way to fail, actually. But yeah, for me, we have
well,
in our business, we have something called motivated sellers. Like somebody, there are five major motivators that we're looking for in our business: death, divorce, drug abuse, job transfer, or job loss. There's a whole bunch of other ones that fall under those five, but those are the specific ones that we look for that make a seller motivated. And you do have tired landlords and stuff that still falls under that leg too, but those are the people. When I first started, yes, I was mailing out to anybody. I figured if there was high grass at a house, the person would want to sell. But the house, I tell everybody, the house is secondary to the seller. The house is secondary to the seller. It's irrelevant about the house. What does the seller want to do? I know people, Ronnie, that have owned vacant houses for 20 years. You look at the,
owning vacant houses for 20 years?
yeah, because the guys, just say for instance, I mean, this one guy, his mother died and he wanted to remember the way his mother kept the house. I mean, it could be, so it's like people look at an empty house and they say, man, the house is empty. Why the hell he won't sell it? Like you got to just get out of that mindset. You got to look for people that Ron LeGrand always says, we only do business with people that want to do business with us. So when I started looking at it like that, as opposed to going out there, God, trying to get a deal, deal, deal. Everybody trying to get
Trying to
this.
convince people?
Oh my God. I'm not even in that business anymore.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? People are convincing me to buy their house.
Right. Yeah, I feel you on that.
I'm like, don't you want to
Definitely.
just keep it, rent it out. No, I want you to take it. Please buy this house. I'm like, you sure, man? I can only give you X. I'm sure you feel the same in the car business. It's like, when you
Yeah.
cross, it's like a threshold you get over where you're not in it for the money. You're in it to provide value to the marketplace, right?
And the money will follow.
Yeah.
That's the point. Like if you're doing something of value and your heart's in it, and don't get me wrong, people have to want it. You can't just be whatever you want to be. You can't just be
Mhm.
uh I want to be the best balloon salesman. You can be the best balloon salesman in the world if people want to buy them.
There you go.
But whatever industry you choose, you're right. I get to a point now where when I'm sitting with a client, within the first 20 minutes, I'm trying to figure out if I actually want to do business with them. And people may find that interesting, but it's true. I have to trust that client that they're going to hold up their end of the deal.
Hmm.
Uh, and so that's usually half of the thing. It's like, I'm not sure I want to work with you when I first meet you.
Yeah.
And I usually can figure that out in about 20 minutes.
Cool.
I want to help everybody, but unfortunately, I'm not a good fit for everybody. I can't be all things to all people.
So do you have like a specific type of client that you look for, or as opposed to obviously everybody needs a car, right? Unless you live in New York City or a big metro area. You have some specific something that you look for?
We call them LCDs, lowest common denominators. So, what are big hotspots for me? The families that are having their third kid, because then not
That's me.
only do the husband and wife not have room for their vehicle, but the grandparents. Grandma doesn't want grandpa picking up three kids, the brand new baby, in a vehicle that's unsafe. And so
Yeah.
typically those folks need help making the transition from a 5-seater to a 7 or 8 passenger vehicle. So they're really
Hmm.
good referrals for me.
Gotcha. Nice. Just- All right, guys. Any questions you got? We're gonna knock them out. Any questions you got? Go ahead and paste them on the side there. My brother from in the car business. Are you a car dealer, Ronnie? I mean, when you show up on the scene, you're like, I'm a car dealer.
Yeah, I have a license to do this. So I'm a licensed car dealer.
No, I never got a
You know,
license.
this is a good lesson for people today. If you're watching this, it's a little edgy and choppy. We had this big idea going on for about a week and we were going to go live. And that's something that happens with entrepreneurs. You get your plan, you get everything in place, and you get going, and then boom, something
Shit
happens.
blows up. You
I
know
think
what?
thespians or, you know, actors and actresses understand like the show must go on.
What's
You've
going
got to figure it out. What are you prepared to do about it? Remember that in that movie JFK?
on? I do.
Sean
Mm.
Connery. What are you prepared to do about it? And so you can go cry. You can cut it off and go, well, we're going to get it perfect and come back and do it next week. Which we had that brief conversation, and I was like, no, we need to keep going with this. And so while we're talking, let's talk about our mission statement. So
Yeah.
first, I shared with it earlier. I'm excited to learn more about my brother. I'm sorry to say that after 43 years of having him on this earth, we just have been so far apart that there's a lot that I need to learn. Number two, we do feel like the lessons we learned over the past 30 years of entrepreneurship, we want to give it back. We want people to understand that they actually can do it. I have a statement that I tell people. It's like, I believe in you. I just need you to figure out a way to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're applying that to playing football, or you can't catch right or something, whether you apply it to baseball or soccer or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
got to find a way to believe in yourself.
Nice.
So
Very nice. Okay. Well, we don't have
those are
any.
the two questions we had. Did I miss something, Chris?
No, that's it, Ronnie. That's all we had. Well, last thing I did wrote down was about saying no. Warren Buffett says no to so many investments. Some of our viewers might, because I know how many people they try this business and that didn't work out. So they jump to another business. And even in real estate, people will look at a house and they look at 5 houses and they say this doesn't work. And like people have come to me over the past 10 years and they say, Chris, I've brought you a lot of houses and you've always said no. And Warren Buffett, what can you say for our viewers that want to say yes to several different business opportunities, perhaps?
I'm live, Steve. Come on in. So I couldn't hear you. Someone walked in my office. What was the question? Can you say it a little quicker?
For our viewers, what would you say about getting them to
Saying no?
stick to one, saying no, but getting to stick to one business, whether it's shoes or
Oh, yeah. We talked about the focus. I actually had someone post a question for me today on Facebook. It wasn't for me, but she put up what was one of the biggest business lessons you, and there's a sentence, and if you haven't written anything down in this video, write this down. Opportunities without direction are distraction.
mm-hmm.
Mark Cuban says it, you can drown an opportunity.
Yeah.
Or some other people will say chasing shiny things. You understand? Like
Yep.
you'll meet a friend that's starting a business, and then the next week they're starting another business, the next week they're starting another business. They don't finish anything. And so when times are really tough for me, really tough, that's when it's the most difficult to stay on task and to stay laser focused.
Mm-hmm.
If you already know in your heart and the market is available, you've done your research, you've got a value proposition, you've got a valuable item or service, you just got to do more work. You got to get up and go work harder.
Yeah.
The market will receive you as soon as you put the time and effort in, guys. And, it's like digging that hole and you never know when you're going to hit the gold.
Acres of diamonds.
So laser focus, man. Stay laser focused. Don't get distracted.
What can you do for our viewers before we get out of here? I've come to the realization that the more I work on myself, becoming a better person, like my business grows. What can you say for our viewers? A lot of us are looking for external things to bring us up, Ronnie. What nuggets can you give us to work on ourselves to make us better people? Because
Well,
I know when I started reading more, it's like I started my whole outlook on life changed, and I started to get more deals, and money just started to come. I felt like I was growing as a person, but I didn't want to read before I started reading. I'm like, damn, I gotta start reading. Now I love it. I'm reading books every day. I don't even watch TV, but I was, focusing on myself.
yeah, I think setting and achieving goals, like, don't get it mistaken for lowering the bar, but I'll give you an example. When I'm running in the morning, I will look out at the end of the road where I'm trying to get to, and it starts to become more difficult.
Yeah.
And so what I do for myself is I just lower my vision a little bit so that I'm like, okay, my goal only needs to be to the end of this block, and
That's
then the
right.
end of the next
Oh,
block,
man. I
and the
like that.
next block, and the next block. And before you finish, so I don't really look at that as lowering the bar or lowering my expectations. I look at it as a means to stair stepping to my goals. And if you put that into your business application, it's the same type of thing. You know, you might want to hit $1 million, but right now we've got to get to 100,000. You know, and then the next 150 and the 160 and 170. If
Yeah.
you get blessed or lucky and you hit $1 million, fantastic. But not hitting an extreme goal can be very devastating to your psyche. So make sure you're stair stepping yourself to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, when I run through, man, I never look how far I got to go. I'm just looking at the streets right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. You got any questions? Then we're out of here. Okay. Our first session of Ask a Haskins. We got no questions, Ronnie. Anything you want to drop before we leave?
Thanks for joining us, guys. We really are excited to have you along with us for this journey. We're going to do this every week until we perfect it. And before you know it, it's going to look like a TV show. So hang in there. I know this first one was butchered, but we'll get it done.
All right, guys. Subscribe to our channels. My brother has a YouTube channel and my channel as well. And I'll see you next time. Okay. Over and out.
Thanks, guys.